I welcome you all to our third day of our first block of hearings in Brisbane. My name is Joshua Creamer and I'm the chairperson of the inquiry. I'm joined by my four fellow members. To my far right, Member Ivan Ingram. Next to him, between myself, Member Cheryl Buchanan. To my far left, Member Rosalind Atkinson. And between us, Member Wanda Malone. I think it's important to recognise that at all stages of this journey, it has been led by First Nations people during both the consultation phase, in which Member Buchanan had a significant role, and now to see four members of this inquiry, Indigenous is a really remarkable and important part of the inquiry's work. I want to, of course, acknowledge the traditional owners, the Yagara and the Turrbal people, and we've been very fortunate this week to have a number of welcome to country ceremonies by Aunty Deborah Sandy and Songwoman Marucci. This is an historic moment in the history of the state, and it's been a significant week for the inquiry to commence our hearings. As we've witnessed this week, truth-telling is not about dividing people, and in fact is perhaps the most powerful tool we have to unite. The presence of so many at our ceremonial hearing this week, and the many who have come to listen to the evidence of our witnesses this week, is, I think, testament to the fact that this inquiry is demonstrating a significant level of unity. None of us here today are responsible for what has occurred on days long past, but it's important to understand that what has happened so that we can move forward together. The object of this inquiry is to establish an authoritative public record about the past and its consequences, to enable a safe and honest conversation about the past and what can be done in the future. Along with the oral evidence that we've heard this week and will no doubt hear over the many weeks that the inquiry sits, the inquiry is tasked with examining government records. Already we know there's over 200,000 items at the State Archives for this inquiry's review. Importantly, the inquiry will provide all of Queensland with a unique opportunity to understand the barriers that exist at present for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and to better understand what can be done to improve outcomes for all Queenslanders. Those are topics which we will commence exploration next week when we hold our truth-telling session with government. We have invited chief executives of key departments to speak to submissions that were provided to the inquiry in August. This will be the first of many truth-telling sessions and hearings where the inquiry will hear evidence about the role of government in colonisation of Queensland in both historical times and today. It is important that this inquiry be held now, and I think all of you are aware of that given your presence here this week and your support, because certainly there is an importance in establishing the accuracy of the historical record, which has not been done, to preserve the evidence of our elders, and we'll hear from a number of those again today, to increase the public's awareness of our history, and to also understand the effects of both generational, intergenerational and direct trauma on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And from those things, giving all Queenslanders the opportunity to heal. The importance of these priorities has been emphasised in the evidence we've heard this week by our first participants. Our terms of reference are clear. In performing its functions, the inquiry will strengthen the relationship between non-Indigenous people and Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islander peoples to foster reconciliation and a deeper respect for First Nations culture, history and experience. I want to echo a number of comments which were made by Mr Saltner this morning. We do have supports in place for people during the course of our hearings. Grateful for the support of Big Hill and Oyster. But also recognising that if what you hear over the course of today or have you heard this week, and you do feel the effects of that at any stage, then you should reach out for support, whether it's 1-3 Yarn or other services. Critically important. That concludes my opening. Council assisting.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Carla Cleese. I am part of the team of barristers assisting the inquiry, and I appear on behalf of the Director of In-House Legal of the Truth Telling and Healing Inquiry, and will be speaking today as counsel assisting the inquiry. My colleagues, Ms Erin Longbottom KC and Ms Malia Ben, will be appearing with me today and speaking as counsel assisting the inquiry.
Thank you. Ms Ben, are you going to...
I'm doing the opening statement today, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Today is the third and final day of the first hearing of the Truth-Telling and Healing Inquiry. I would like to acknowledge that we have heard stories of the lived experiences of elders and their families and begun a journey of healing on Yagara and Turrbal land, very near a place where gatherings have taken place for millennia. We are pleased to see again many people who have attended each day of this truth-telling hearing, and we also extend a warm welcome to people attending the inquiry for the first time. Particularly for the benefit of those people attending for the first time, I will mention a number of matters about the inquiry. The people appearing before the inquiry this week were invited to this first and formal truth-telling hearing because they have previously publicly shared at least part of their story. Even so, the inquiry acknowledges that it takes great courage to be in this first group to engage in this truth-telling process. The participants that we have heard evidence from so far during the Brisbane truth-telling hearing, Auntie Leslie Williams, Professor Tracy Bunder, David Ragg and Auntie Ruth Hegarty, have demonstrated their strength and resilience and an intention to create a shared understanding in this truth-telling process, of Queensland's past in this truth-telling process. The inquiry team wishes to thank these individuals for the many hours they have spent with counsel assisting, solicitors assisting, and members of the community participation support team to record their stories into written submissions and to prepare for this hearing. This has occurred at the kitchen table, at the inquiry office, or at their workplace, wherever it was convenient or comfortable for the participant. It has also included access to wellbeing and emotional support at each step of the way. To ensure the participant is entirely comfortable with the final written submission and is ready to attend such a formal hearing as this, it takes time, and we have treaded carefully and slowly with them. We acknowledge their dedication to this process. Throughout this week, over 2,500 people have attended or watched the inquiry's public hearings. The attendance of so many Queenslanders has demonstrated that there is a strong willingness in Queensland to listen to and to hear the evidence of participants. We also want to acknowledge the engagement by many members of the audience who have been attending our hearing in person this week and their eagerness to share their evidence with the inquiry. If you are interested to participate in the future or want to learn more about it, we encourage you to speak to the inquiry team and to register your interest. Please be assured that attending a public truth-telling hearing like this one and going through the process I've just described is just one of many ways you can participate in this inquiry. You are free to submit your own submissions or videos with or without the assistance of inquiry staff, however you feel comfortable. You also can engage in one-on-one, family or group sessions with just one or more members of the inquiry panel in a more informal setting. This could take place wherever a participant is comfortable, in a community hall, around your dining table, or outside. The way that the inquiry takes the evidence of every participant is like a conversation between us as the barristers or the counsel assisting and the participants. The members sitting up the front will not say very much, if anything. Their role is to listen deeply and to take into account everything a participant says and every submission, document or book a participant gives to the inquiry. As they are required to operate independently and objectively and prepare a report to government at the end of the 3 years, their role of listening and observing is difficult but very important. Today, the inquiry will hear from three participants, the first two in person and the third via a pre-recorded video. The first participant will be Michael Aird. He is the Director of the Anthropology Museum at the University of Queensland and an Aboriginal man from the Gold Coast. He will give evidence about his work in visual anthropology and will be introduced shortly by Ms Longbottom KC. The second participant is Auntie Flo Watson. Auntie Flo is a Guganji and Gugu Yalanji elder. She will speak about her childhood in Yarrabah and the stories of how both her and her mother were part of the stolen generation. The last participant for today will be Dr. Jackie Huggins AM. Jackie is a Bidjara and Birrigubba Juru woman who will give evidence of her mother's removal from Carnarvon Gorge, life at Cherbourg, and their life in Brisbane, particularly in the 1960s. Jackie's evidence will be via video. Today we will conclude with a formal closing address by both Ms Ben and Ms Longbottom KC. That is all I have to say for opening, Mr Chair. Thank you.
Before we have a short break to enable the the participants to take a seat, I want to emphasise that it is a strong commitment of the members of this inquiry to ensure that this is an open process for all Queenslanders to engage in. We recognise that there is a critical importance in having our hearings live streamed, and unfortunately we didn't have that capability on this occasion, but we'll be certainly making recordings of the last 3 days available on our website and are committed to ensuring hearings are live streamed into the future. We'll take a short break.